Welcome everyone to the reaction end of Action Reaction with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host Troyo Diamonds. Last week we talked about how crime doesn't pay, and also pitched a few drug sales ideas to kids, and we had a couple movies on that spectrum to talk about. One of them being Smokin' Aces, and the other being 48 Hours. And I'm really excited and interested to get your take on 48 Hours. But I have a few thoughts about Smokin' Aces first.
All right, let's start with Smokin' Aces. How did this movie do for you, Zane?
Smokin' Aces, I gotta say, it's kind of like a really awesome movie sandwiched in a really shitty movie.
It's a bit uneven.
a little uneven, yeah. How like the last 15 minutes of the movie is just like, you know, all that shit that we just went through, let's just pull the plug on all of that and get into some serious dramas here. And
yeah, it's one of those movies where it's difficult to know if there was like some behind the scenes drama, because it's not like people were really chronicling what was going on the set of Smokin' Aces. But if this was like a big budget movie, you'd be thinking like, all right, where is the studio getting involved? Where is the director having creative differences with production? And then like you could sort of see where the seams are and where it comes apart. But we don't have any of that information. So all we have are just like, there are these seams and we don't know why.
Yeah, I get the feeling, like, I haven't seen Suicide Squad, but I get the feeling like this is the best thing that Suicide Squad could have hoped to be.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
If that makes sense. Because what it feels like is, it feels like somebody had this awesome, simple idea that was like, all right, let's have a bunch of assassins go to a hotel and try to kill a dude. Be fucking awesome. And then like the studio was like, nah, we got to put some boring shit in that. Otherwise, it's just going to be too dumb.
Yeah, like they wanted to manufacture that big twist ending and
to like give 20 minutes of exposition leading up by like 5 different characters just literally explaining to you what all the parts of the movie are going to be.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
So you like have this beginning that's just all exposition, and this end that is literally all exposition. And in the middle, you have all the cool stuff.
Right, you just have all the assassins.
So, I'm not going to say I didn't, like, it has legitimately good cinematography. Honestly, like, that is one of the core saving graces of that movie. It is pretty to look at. It is well filmed.
Were there any scenes in particular, or any shots that really stood out to you?
Some of the chaos in the hotel room itself, like when everybody finally gets to the hotel room and you have like all the gun battle going on, that kind of chaos is really well done.
Yeah, I think that's really well done. And there's also, we're going to have to get to it at some point. What did you think about the way, the scene in general, but also the way it was shot when Chris Pine is moving Ben Affleck's mouth, apologizing for killing him?
Like that was actually well filmed. I mean, the scene itself is kind of dumb. It's fun, it's fun.
Yeah, it's very pulpy.
Yeah, but it's a lot of like, especially I'm thinking too of like Ray Liotta's shootout in the elevator with the other assassin dude.
Yeah,
like that shit was really well filmed.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I always wonder about this movie, where I can never remember how to pronounce this actress model's name, but the woman who plays Enchantress in Suicide Squad, Cara Delvini or whatever.
Hmm.
Someone once asked me, "Is she hot?" And it's one of those things where, like, you look at a picture of her and it's like, yeah, she's objectively gorgeous. Then you see just like one wrong angle, and it's like, oh my god, that is a different person. That's how I feel about this movie. Like, I enjoy it. I can say, like, this is objectively pretty good. It's solid, but a lot of the times if you just catch the wrong angle, you're just like, ooh, that's different than I remembered.
Yeah, it just I want to like it, but I can't imagine putting up with some of the parts of it again.
Right. So,
Like,
so what makes you really want to like it?
what makes me really want to like it, actually, honestly, weirdly, and I know we said this coming in, Common is actually really pretty good in this movie.
Isn't he?
He is. Like, this may be the best thing I've seen him do, acting wise.
Yeah, and it's his first movie role too.
The scene he had with Jeremy Piven in the bathroom where he knows Jeremy Piven's going to give him up and he's pissed off at him, like, that was actually really good.
Yeah, he does a good, like, restrained anger.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. He was really good. This is such a fucking stuffed cast. Were there any other people who you felt like either really nailed what they were supposed to do or absolutely did not?
Jeremy Piven, actually, I didn't mind him. I liked him. He played his role. I mean, he's Jeremy Piven, so you know what you're getting out of that.
Right.
And uh, the Chris Pine gang of Nazis did well. Honestly, probably the best person who really nailed it, other than my like of Ray Liotta, who smells like apples. Um, it was probably the guy who played the face changing killer,
Oh yeah, the disguise man guy.
disguise man, um, whose name I don't who's know at all. He's just an
Yeah,
actor.
me either. But he did, you're right. He did do a good job of like really fading into what the role is supposed to be.
Yeah. On the other hand, I don't dislike Andy Garcia, but what the fuck was up with his
What?
accent?
What the fuck was he doing with most of this movie? I feel like most of his role in this movie are like the bad parts. It's the exposition. It's the creating a plot twist where you don't need like this overarching dramatic plot or like crime drama stemming back 50 years. No, just throw assassins at a hotel suite. It'll be good that way.
Yeah,
But
he didn't
instead
have
they
a
have
lot to work with, but somebody also was like, let's have him be a Southern gentleman. And so you have Alex Garcia being like, now what I want you to know, son, is, and you're like, wait, this is Andy Garcia.
yeah, but he only does it for like 2 lines at a time before he like just goes back to being Andy Garcia.
Yeah, that
Which
that shit was terrible.
yeah, that wasn't great.
Also, I gotta say, having Ryan Reynolds try to carry a serious like undercurrent of the movie,
Yeah.
that,
And look, I ride out for Ryan Reynolds. I'll usually defend him.
mhm.
And like generally the bad movies he's in, he's not the bad part.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But this movie, I feel like they had him in the right role in the beginning when he's on a stakeout and they're joking about a piss bottle
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Ryan Reynolds, exactly who you want in that role. But then when they try to have that like big emotional payoff at the end with the soundtrack to the just building and him being like, no, this is a principled stand against, we can't compromise our morals or whatever. And that just fell the fuck apart. Like,
yeah.
that's not,
Nothing about who Ryan Reynolds is as an actor prepares you for him to be delivering those lines in that way.
yeah. And I've seen him in some dramatic roles where he can pull it off, but I think it was more a problem with the script and the direction than it really was with anything he did with the role.
Yeah, I mean that I wouldn't. I don't blame him for doing what he needed to do with it, but it's just miscasting at that point. Like if you're gonna need some actor to be like a really serious emotional tone in the movie and really bring the movie some gravitas, Ryan Reynolds is not your dude.
Who do you think would have done that role better? Because I suddenly just had a name pop in my head that would work for a couple of the scenes.
Oh man, I mean, if you're gonna like, at this point, like you could have gone with somebody. I don't know that maybe. Oh, Colin Farrell.
Oh, Colin Farrell could have done it.
He could have killed it.
He would have been really good.
He's
I
really
was
good
just
at being weepy and overwhelmed.
Yeah, and also the now my suggestion is going to sound shitty because Colin Farrell does two things really well. He does the weepy and overwhelmed, and he also does like the kind of confused and overwhelmed role really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking, in the scene where Ryan Reynolds' crew is all getting fitty called up, and when he's confronting Andy Garcia at the end about like, make this make sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is classic Mark Wahlberg confusion.
It is. It is. That also came to mind as another guy who does confused action really well.
Yeah. God, I just love any movie where you just tell Marky Mark to be confused. Even like I Heart Huckabees, when he's just confused and doesn't know what's going on. It's fantastic.
I thought my memory of I Heart Huckabees was like, this is kind of like a hipster, trashy, like
Yeah, like somebody
overly
who kind of wanted to be West.
emo movie.
Yeah.
And then I went and watched it again. I was like, okay, this is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's so funny. Anytime. Oh, yeah. Mark Wahlberg's confused faces are just hilarious. He's so
Mark
good at it.
Wahlberg being confused and Naomi Campbell, Naomi, Naomi Watts.
Yeah,
Naomi
maybe.
Watts.
I don't
There we
know.
go. Not Naomi Campbell. Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
what is wrong with me? I Heart Huckabees. Uh, her like wearing overalls and stuffing herself with cake is just
Oh God, I forgot about that. I haven't seen that movie in so long.
it is it is way Naomi Watts. Yeah, it's way too much fun. Honestly, every bit of it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So real quick, coming back to Smoking Aces. So I want to kind of get an idea of where you rate this movie because I know your three things. There is a kid in this movie, but he is very much a shitty kid on purpose.
I mean, it would have almost been cool had there been any fucking sense in it at all, other than
Right.
here's some more weird shit we can pile in our movie full of weird shit.
Yeah. That's one of those things. That's one of those seams that we started talking about where it's like, you might have had a direction for this. And maybe it is. I just don't think that their entire reason for doing that scene with, or subplot with the guy who got shot up getting tormented by this kid, that had to have a better payoff than just making him more tormented and shitty. Like,
Yeah.
there had to be a goal that ended up getting lost in editing. But so that's the only kid. There isn't a designated comic relief character. There's some comic relief. There isn't like a.
But no, there's no bad comic relief.
Yeah. And the closest thing to a romance plot is just Common carrying Alicia Keys down some stairs.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't get distracted in that way.
Yeah. If anything, it does a good job of being like, how do we get rid of these characters without killing them? He carries her? Okay, bye.
Otherwise, like, it's just, for me, I mean, I don't hate it. And I would there's parts of it I would really happily watch. It's too unfocused. It's too much. There's just enough of things that I really want than to have to get things that I really don't want to have to put up with.
Yeah.
mostly it's that you have like a balls out action movie with so much exposition. Like they just could not figure out how to do any of the storytelling in the movie without just having somebody sit down and tell you the story.
Yeah, and then also we didn't really need this. Like this could have been two very separate movies. One that's just a basically like Face Off, but it started in the 50s and more as a drama. And then throw assassins at a hotel room, and we don't need any more stakes than that. This could be, like we talked about on the John Wick episode, a great gun opera where the whole focus is just good choreography and cinematography and action, and the plot is whatever.
All the plot needs to be is, I want this guy dead. I put out $1 million contract on him. Anybody who kills him gets $1 million. Boom, done.
Yeah,
like that is your entire plot, and you have a hotel room filled with people trying to kill one dude.
Yeah, and that's a good movie.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
Like that's a good movie hidden in this very uneven movie.
Yes. So it is like it makes so much sense to me watching it that you loved it.
Right.
It's so fun and dumb at the same time.
Right. That's a fair characterization of things I like. I mean, that's not even being insulting. I like very dumb things.
I mean, probably your greatest your greatest dialogue moments in this movie are.
Oh yeah. Let's hear your favorite lines.
So you got Buddy Israel. They're both Buddy Israel lines or Buddy Israel moments, which is why I say Jeremy Piven actually does a fine job in this movie, despite being Jeremy Piven.
He's perfectly cast. He does exactly what he needs to do, and you fucking hate him for it.
Yep. You got you're looking at me like I just asked you the fucking square root of something.
That's such a good one.
And then you have his whole thing about the guy jizzing on his coat.
Yeah.
And that's like the core writing moment of the movie, where his Russian bodyguard got jizz all over his expensive leather jacket.
And to me, that's one of the best introductions to a character in an action movie, because you immediately understand exactly who this character is. I mean, just the Eastern European jizz, like just doing the accent over it. Oh, he's such a bag of dicks. If to anybody listening to this, if you just want somebody to hate for about like 90 minutes, watch Smoking Aces and just Jeremy Piven.
But that's the thing. See, that's what pisses me off more than anything else about this movie, and why I probably couldn't watch it again, is you build up all this animosity towards him, and then he just disappears. Like
that was the fucked up thing.
You watch the scenes of the big shootout, trying to figure out what the fuck happened to him. He just drops out of the fucking movie.
Basically, yeah. It's when he like passes out from doing too much sad coke, and when they pull out in negotiations, he's just a body on the ground for a while. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. And then the thing I hate is the very melodramatic ending of Ryan Reynolds like pulling the life support on both guys. Like that is not the way to kill Jeremy Piven in this movie. He needs to get thrown off a building or a balcony and like just barely miss hitting the pool after falling 20 stories and splatter all over the goddamn deck. That's what we deserve. And we don't get that. And
you need some kind of real payoff. But like, I even forgot that he was in the hospital in that final scene until you just mentioned it again, because he is literally like never shown again for more than a tenth of a fraction of a second.
Yeah, and when he is, he's comatose in a hospital bed.
Yeah,
like
he just drops out. Like I say, it's a good movie sandwiched with two it's a good meat and then two really shitty slices of bread on either end.
Yeah. It's like an inverse shit sandwich.
It's an inverse shit sandwich. Absolutely.
I love this movie so much. Even after we say that, I love it.
Okay, well, I need to know then what you thought about 48 Hours.
48 Hours is great. This
Is it
movie is.
is it first thing I gotta ask, is it the most racist thing you have ever seen in a mass Hollywood like vehicle that may not have been intended to be quite that racist? Like not Roots, you know?
Yeah, maybe. And like the first thing I wrote down about this movie was, Christ, it starts out with the racism. Literally, the first lines are being overtly racist. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember thinking like, "Oh, good. I'm glad we started with it. I'm
It
glad."
opens with the indie with Billy Bob or no Billy
Billy Bear.
Billy Bear showing up and him being like, "You want some fire water?"
Yeah, it is just taunting him from the get go. And okay, sure, that's this movie. This is 80s racism. Let's get into it. I I mean, do we just want to start and get like all the racism out of the way? Because
Yeah, yeah.
this,
Anything that come, any lines that came to mind.
uh, I thought you were a smart boy. That okay. And keep in mind that's from what's his name? That's from Nick Nolte.
Yeah,
That's the guy who we're supposed to be at least kind of rooting for.
yeah.
And also when Eddie Murphy says like almost anything right when he gets out, I don't want to hear your jive. There was the "you'd best have a black Russian" line that you brought up.
Charcoal colored loser.
Charcoal colored loser. When
What
he
are you
calls
smiling
him,
at? Watermelon.
yeah, watermelon. Let's see what else. I didn't know you darker people went in for foreign jobs when we were talking about the car. Here's the one I actually yelled at this line. Even like deep into the movie, when they say, "You're just a spear chucker with a number stitched on the back of his prison fatigues." Oh my God! Oh my God! Why? Oh, this movie is super racist. It was to the point where like when they kept saying like, "Oh, we can go into Chinatown," I was like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do in Chinatown? Well, how are you gonna?" Oh no!
And yet, and yet, amazingly fun.
Really fun movie. I don't even want to say in between the racism because at some point I was just like, okay, we're in 1982. We're allowed to do this.
This is who we were as a country. He's a white cop.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And just while we're getting our whole problematic faves thing out of the way, a lot of really great fleshed out female characters in this movie.
Super fleshed out, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that every woman in this movie is either a bullet shield or a dick holster. They're in pretty much the entirety of their characters.
Pretty much, yeah. Eddie Murphy's was even named Candy just to make it extra clear that she has no other purpose than to be something, sweet for
Right.
him.
Right. And then like he just goes up to a chick at a bar and is like, "You want to go to the hotel and fuck?" Basically, like that's all he does. She's like, "No." And then about 20 seconds later, he's like, "Okay, so we're going to the hotel to fuck, right?" And she's like, "Okay, yeah." Early 80s people.
So yeah, is the cowboy bar scene also not the best thing ever?
Oh, it's okay. I feel like a big part of why that worked, besides all the reasons why it worked, it's so great. But there were a couple of times in this movie where it felt like Eddie Murphy, yeah, this was his first movie role. He was kind of wooden. There were times where you could tell he was reading lines. And he was what, like 2 years into Saturday Night Live when they started filming this?
Something like that, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really early in his career.
Yeah, but it was when he was used to doing sketch work. That's what he was known for. And when he gets into the whatever, like the Neo Confederate bar, it's just a whole scene of Eddie Murphy doing character work. And it's great. I feel like that's where he feels really natural in this movie, is just, yeah, doing some character work and taking over the scene that way. That was legitimately one of my favorite parts of the movie.
It's wonderful. It really is. And So one of the other things that really surprises me about this movie and makes me like it a lot is actually how like surprisingly violent it is.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I mean, like, what jumps out to you is like how it's surprisingly violent.
Well, like so you have the uh just like the brutality of when people get shot is mostly it. Like when people actually get shot in this movie, it's very much like the classic bullet pack, flesh exploded, hole in someone thing, not just a spray of bullets that don't really do anything. And
Right.
you just see like a little blood splatter. It's like everybody looks dead.
Yeah, and I feel like this movie does a really good job of making gunfire dangerous. Like it's not a movie where someone gets shot and then like wraps a bandage around it. Like getting shot is very bad in this movie. And they did
Yeah.
I feel like they did a lot to set that up. Like just the sound design around every gunshot is big. It sounds like they're shooting a goddamn cannon every time. And also one of the things that I really liked in like the gunplay scenes of this are they use a lot of revolvers. We don't do that enough anymore.
No.
There should be more revolvers in action movies. They're cool as fuck.
They are. It always a revolver always feels real in a classic action movie because it's just like it's this huge gun that you only have so many shots, and so like anyone that hits, it has to be a big deal. And
Yeah, there's something really grounding about it. And it just
Mhm.
feels like it's an older, more analog way to render violence. You're not like just feeding a clip into something. It just feels more deliberate. And I really like the character that it brings.
Definitely. It's one of those movies. Like I said, I think it's a movie that probably everybody has seen either some like TV edited version of it, or they saw it like when they were 5, or somehow when they were like a little kid because it was on TV, or it was their parents were watching it, and nobody remember, or people just don't remember how good it is.
Yeah. And I do think that it's something that is really worth revisiting because I love buddy cop movies. We both love buddy cop
Oh,
movies. It's a great genre. But this is going back to the root of when a buddy cop movie was we can't believe that this guy is working with this guy. And I mean, that's part of why the movie is so racist, is because the premise of buddy cop movies was racist. It was, can you imagine a black guy working with a white cop? How are they ever going to figure this out? Like, it was a wacky thing to do that. And as much as I love, like Iron Man 3 is essentially a buddy cop movie, but like the most studio involved version of it, like the most sanitized version of it. And yeah, it's fucking what's his name? Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle. But
mhm.
there isn't tension there because it's a white guy working with a black guy. But there's a reason why that pairing is so common. And it's because the roots of this are buddy cop movies are supposed to be, you can't believe they're working together. That's why
Yeah.
Tom Hanks got partnered with a fucking dog after this. Like, once we stopped being okay with a movie being this openly racist, we're like, well, a cop can't work with a dog.
Well, hey, before this, it was Harry Callahan working with a Mexican, and then working with a woman in the sequel for the Dirty Harry movies.
Right. Yeah. And how could those ever possibly happen? Like,
Yeah.
the divides between those people are too great. And the entertainment is their struggle to overcome this. Like, it's good to remember where these movies came from, why this genre is a thing.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's fun to. I love watching the early versions of buddy cop movies, like these early ones where they were really like really trying to expose sentiments at the time that were a lot harsher than what we're used to now.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a great little time capsule to when you could just call a black guy watermelon, I guess.
Not something we're endorsing. Not at all.
No,
Not,
don't do that.
no,
Even in the privacy of your own home, just don't.
just don't. So, beyond the horrible racist lines, do you have any other favorite lines?
So near the beginning of the movie, what got me on board with Nick Nolte is when he's arguing with his booty call chick, and he says, "What makes you think I got any clean shirts at my place?" Like, hell yeah, Nick Nolte, you don't give a shit. That is some straight dirtbag move. I am with you on that, Nick Nolte. I loved that. What else is great? Eddie Murphy saying, "I've been in prison for 3 years. My dick gets hard if the wind blows."
I know, that's such a perfect line.
That's one of the most Eddie Murphy lines. Also, when he says, "I should get my dick bronzed." Like, and there was like an oddly woke line in this when Nick Nolte says, "Just doing my job, keeping you down." It's like, oh, okay. You didn't mean that the way I interpreted it, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, trying to remember who. I think the guy who wrote Die Hard may have written it, if I'm remembering. Let me see.
Okay. Oh, one more thing that I really I got built up and then torn back down on in this movie is the bar that Eddie Murphy decides to go to and calls Nick Nolte from. They're playing "The Boys Are Back in Town," but not "The Boys Are Back in Town" that I like. They're not playing the one that I put on every jukebox at every bar I go to.
Oh, so okay. It was written by Stephen E. D'Souza in part, who wrote Die Hard and Commando.
Okay.
And it was also written by Roger Spottiswoode, who did write Turner and Hooch.
No! Oh my God. Oh.
No, he directed Turner and Hooch, actually. Not even wrote, but directed it.
Fuck. I did not and never knew that. And here we are, like, talking about the genre of buddy cop movies. Holy shit. That's amazing.
Yeah.
He really did just have that one go-to.
Did.
You know what he was doing? Oh my God, that's even worse.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the hell out of 48 Hours, because it is one of those, like, core to me action movies that just sets up so many things after it. And, obviously there are buddy cop movies before it, there are buddy cop movies around it, but it's hard for me to think of a buddy cop movie without thinking of 48 Hours.
Yeah. And yeah, it really is a important piece of the genre. I'm glad I went back and watched it. I don't know how many times I would go back and see it again, because I've just seen other buddy cop movies that are standing on the shoulders of this giant. But anyone who hasn't seen it or hasn't seen it recently should go back and watch it. It's worth it.
It really is. All right. On that note, we'll be back in just a few days with a new episode, a new full episode, and a new theme, which is what?
Our new theme for next week is overcoming expectations.
All right. So we'll be back with movies that overcome expectations. If Troy can overcome my expectations, that in itself will be an amazing event.
You better set them appropriately.
They are as low as they can get.
All right.
All you got to do is, like, jump an inch.
We'll see. I can trip over a remarkably small crack.
All right. On that note, find me on Twitter at These Anytime. You can find Troy on Twitter at BDLMMA. And we'll be back in just a few days.
Bye, everybody.